the reason they felt they needed to do that, Jesse, is because if they told their audience the truth, that when gas is the most expensive it's been, flights are super expensive, that 5,000 kids decided to spend a weekend in summer traveling across the country to go hear from conservative speakers, maybe the audience of The View would think twice about all of their ideas. That's why they felt so compelled to try to smear our wonderful summit this last week.
Yeah, they have nothing else to talk.
Whoopi Goldberg completely lost it live on air. And no, it wasn't because of heatstroke. It was because CharlieKirk came in dropping harsh truths like he thought he was at a comedy roast for bad logic, not a talk show. One moment, Whoopi looked confident and calm, and the next, she looked like she saw a ghost wearing a Turning Point USA hoodie. So what exactly did Charlie say that made her react like someone just yanked out her teleprompter? Get your popcorn ready, because this wasn't just a debate, it was an explosion, packed with more drama than a Real Housewives reunion hosted by Ben Shapiro in a wig.
CharlieKirk's the founder and CEO of Turning Point USA and the author of the new book, The College Scam. So, Charlie, do you accept The View's apology?
I mean, regardless of whether or not I accept it, the question is, do our students accept it? That's really what's at heart here. They went after our 5,000 students at our event there of high school and college kids. And look, I get attacked all the time. People say false things. I'm a public figure. But when you go after 16 and 17-year-olds that travel from across the country that then have to live for the rest of their life with a shadow over them because someone at ABC says that they might be linked to neo-Nazis.
Whoopi, the self-proclaimed queen of daytime talk, usually sits on her comfy chair like it's a royal throne, handing out bold opinions like they're absolute truth. She's been doing it for years with that "I'm always right" vibe that could probably power Times Square if you turned it into electricity, building her world out of confident rants and audience cheers, untouched by real challenge. But not this time. Because today that bubble burst loud enough for the whole internet to hear, all thanks to CharlieKirk, who decided he wasn't letting The View deliver unchecked sermons anymore. Now, CharlieKirk isn't the first name that comes to mind when you think of shaking up daytime TV, but out of nowhere, he showed up armed with a microphone, facts, and the kind of confidence you only get from watching your own viral clips on repeat, not sitting across from Whoopi, not even in the same city, just pressing record on his podcast, launching his response like a missile, sipping coffee while the internet lit up. A smug little comment from Whoopi, dressed up in claps, laughs, and nods from her co-hosts, but Charlie noticed what they didn't, a clear crack in the logic, an easy target that basically said, clap back here, and he did exactly that, calmly and clearly breaking it down so everyone could see it wasn't about drama or yelling, just solid, sharp truth from someone who knew what he was talking about and wasn't afraid to flip the whole narrative.
Welcome back. You know, in Monday's conversation about Turning Point USA, I put the young people at the conference in the same category as the protesters outside. And I don't like it when people make assumptions about me, and it's not any better when I make assumptions about other people, which I did. So, my bad. I'm sorry. Okay. So, the state,
First came Charlie's precision takedown. He didn't just fire back. He calmly took apart Whoopi's entire argument like a surgeon with a scalpel, no shouting, no drama, just a clear and thoughtful breakdown that made thousands of media viewers feel like someone finally said what they were thinking. He did what people have been hoping for forever. He actually checked the facts and used them like a sword, slicing right through the flimsy logic of Whoopi's points, and it wasn't just one contradiction. He basically built an entire IKEA shelf of them, complete with instructions and even those weird wooden pegs that never fit, and the best part was how he did it, with the cool confidence of someone who knew this clip was about to blow up online before dinner even hit the table. The facts didn't just disagree with Whoopi's take, they danced all over it like a viral YouTube challenge, turning her polished soundbite into a remix meme storm, with Instagram reels exploding, TikTok creators stitching their own takes, YouTube shorts going off, and Reddit turning it into a wildfire of threads, as people started digging into Whoopi's past takes like internet archaeologists on a mission.
But look, what did it take for us to get to the point of an apology? We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it. We're talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this. And as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go, because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk away.
Even people who hadn't watched The View since Obama's first term suddenly had strong opinions, because Charlie pulled back the curtain, and behind it was just a tower of smug takes stacked with no real foundation. Then came the real questions, not the soft, friendly ones, but the kind that hit hard, like, wait, did she just make that up, and how did that even get applause? And that's when it started, the slow hiss of the daytime TV bubble deflating, a bubble that had floated untouched for years. See, Whoopi didn't get roasted face-to-face in a studio showdown. She got taken apart digitally by a guy who never even stepped on set, and suddenly her safe space didn't feel so safe anymore. The studio that once felt bulletproof, full of scripted takes and synchronized nods, began to feel shaky. You could hear it in the forced laughs, the awkward silences, punchlines that didn't quite land. Something had shifted, and though Whoopi was still there, in the same seat with the same delivery and signature head tilt, the energy was different. That fiery confidence had cooled, and her presence started to feel more like a highlight reel on loop, trying to bring back the old magic while quietly scanning the room, wondering, you all still with me?
Disgusting, gross elitism and her complete out-of-touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated.
What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding.
Just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever they teach. But I said this to our team. I said working people, the muscular class, including working women, they are so in favor of Trump, and they don't want to be called stupid or uneducated.
Because here's the thing, it was never just about what Charlie said, it was about the shift he sparked. He proved something way bigger. You don't need bright lights, a glam team, or a panel of co-hosts to call out nonsense. You just need a camera, a Wi-Fi connection, and the courage to say what everyone's already thinking. No yelling, no theatrics, just straight-up facts, delivered so clearly they shattered the illusion on impact. And once you spot the flaws, you can't unsee them. Charlie didn't need to raise his voice. He spoke with the calm confidence of someone who already knew he'd won, like a guy casually reading spoilers to a movie you didn't realize was already over. While Whoopi's show leaned on applause breaks, commercial timing, and polished transitions, Charlie came in with nothing but sharp, focused logic. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, smooth, and brutal, like a cat knocking a glass off a table without blinking. Chill, deliberate, and savage, and the wild part? It worked. Right after that, everything shifted. The internet, home of chaos and memes, caught the scent of something different, and Charlie's calm takedown started spreading like classified info, with YouTubers dropping titles like, "Did CharlieKirk just end The View?" and "How one clip shattered the illusion." Twitter threads got chaotic, TikToks blew up, and even casual viewers started noticing the cracks, the recycled arguments, the shallow takes, and that tired moral high ground routine that used to slide by on charisma alone.
Now we begin with a shocking apology just a short time ago from the ladies of The View to Turning Point USA. A war of words broke out after the conservative group was rallying the next generation of voters at its youth summit in Tampa, Florida this weekend. And the liberal panel just couldn't help themselves. The group sent a scathing cease and desist letter after hosts on The View suggested that Turning Point had embraced neo-Nazis who showed up outside the event.
But let's be clear, Whoopi didn't break down, she didn't cry or walk off set, she stayed and kept talking, but the vibe had clearly shifted, and it was impossible to ignore. The energy in the room felt different, like an actual office after bad news hits, and this wasn't the kind of meltdown you turn into a dramatic clip for a soap opera. It was quieter, slower, and way more uncomfortable. The kind where a hot take ends not in applause but in dead silence. You know something's off when a dramatic Mic drop is followed by a cough, no laughs, no cheers, just awkward quiet and a blank stare off camera like she's hoping someone will jump in but no one does. And that's the sting of losing your crown in the court of public opinion, because no one announces it. You just look around and realize the room's gone quiet. Even the producers felt it. Suddenly the topics got safer, the fiery rants got toned down, and the punchlines felt like they were coming from a memo titled, "Let's not go viral again." For the wrong reason, and that's exactly where Charlie's brilliance showed. He didn't barge in, didn't start a brawl. He just calmly cut off the oxygen, no face-off, no messy debate, just a quiet, one-sided reveal with sniper-like precision and magician-level smoothness. He didn't argue, he exposed, and that hit way harder than yelling ever could, because for once, it worked. Not because Charlie's famous, but because he said what millions were already thinking, maybe all that polished daytime TV power is just surface, with no real depth underneath.
You let them in and you knew what they were. Right. So you are complicit. I want to make a quick clarification about the neo-Nazi Turning Point event. They were outside protesters. My point was more metaphorical, that you embraced them at your thing, I felt.
Well, fast forward to this morning. The host apologized before quickly cutting to commercial.
This wasn't about politics. It wasn't red versus blue. It was pure logic versus overproduced fluff. And the moment that logic got a stable Wi-Fi connection, viewers snapped out of it and realized they'd been clapping for catchy soundbites that fall apart the second you fact-check them. The loudest part of it all? The silence, not just from Whoopi, but from the entire machine that usually backed her up without hesitation. No rebuttal, no spin, just this awkward pause, because honestly, what could they say? The facts were right there, and trying to argue would have been like throwing matches into a bonfire. Guaranteed explosion. So they did what big media always does when the spotlight turns into a heat lamp. They blinked and kept it moving. But the internet doesn't just move on because The View did. Weeks passed, segments changed, but that clip was still everywhere, reposted, referenced, and remixed, turning into a symbol, a digital receipt for the exact moment the curtain slipped and Whoopi's untouchable aura took a clean, silent hit. No drama, no screaming, just logic so sharp it didn't even leave a visible mark, only an echo. And Charlie? He didn't gloat, didn't come back for more. He just dipped, like a guy who bulldozed the house and didn't bother to turn around, because that's how takedowns work now. They don't need volume, the internet handles that part. One clean clip, one undeniable point, and suddenly it's not a debate anymore. It's a wave of memes, stitches, edits, and quotes that keeps crashing long after the cameras stop rolling.
Sean, something that struck me in the cease and desist letter was the sentence that specifically The View host insidiously and cavalierly stated that TPUSA let the neo into its event, metaphorically embraced them, and it went on. Insidiously and cavalierly. And I felt that perfectly summed up exactly what those women were saying, which is something so deeply toxic and also so lightly thrown out there.
And so false. I mean, these were protesters outside of the event, right? They couldn't get in. These were not neo-Nazis inside of Turning Point USA. They were protesting outside on public grounds, and Turning Point tried.
And Whoopi, for all her poise and that seasoned showbiz confidence, didn't just face Charlie. She ran headfirst into the one thing no celebrity can spin their way out of, a digital timeline that remembers everything. No shouting, no chaos, just that cold, sinking feeling when you realize no matter how loud you talk, the receipts talk louder. This wasn't just another spicy internet moment, it was a cultural reality check. The kind that quietly says, your live, laugh, love decor isn't deep, just kinda cringe, because this wasn't noise. It was real impact. CharlieKirk, armed with nothing but Wi-Fi and the confidence of a guy whose PowerPoint has way too many slides, did what no on-air meltdown, social media spat, or blue-check drama ever managed. He cracked the illusion, the myth that talk shows like The View are untouchable truth temples. Done. Let's be real. Daytime TV has been cruising like it's the Vatican of hot takes, built on flashy sets, staged outrage, and applause buttons. More obedient than a golden retriever at obedience school, where hosts could drop half-baked opinions or backwards logic and still get cheered like they just brought world peace, because logic wasn't the currency, volume was. Then Charlie showed up. No invite, no meltdown, no stunt, just a camera, a calm voice, and enough truth to break the fourth wall like it was made of dollar store glass.
I don't want to say too much, but we're going to have a lot of fun at the Department of Education. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Can I tell you something? Like, I've had quite a few people contact me about that particular post. Like, I'm sure I have 1/100th of what you're getting, but people are contacting me about cabinet posts. I'm like, I got nothing.
I mean, I'm actually, after this conversation, heading to Mar-a-Lago for a week. And we have a lot to sift through. And if I could be helpful, I have asked. I want to be actively involved in all things education, as you can imagine.
And here's the real twist. It wasn't even about what Charlie said. It was how he said it. Calm, clear, and loaded with facts stacked like CVS receipts. No dramatic music, no flashy cuts, just cold, crisp data served straight. The kind of clarity that doesn't need hype, because when truth is real, it doesn't scream. It just lands and leaves a dent. Charlie didn't show up with rage. He came with receipts. And while the View swirled in its usual tornado of takes and applause cues, he simply pointed to the chaos and said, here's the contradiction, here's the data, here's why this doesn't add up, like watching someone gently untangle a gold chain while the other side keeps shouting it's a noose. The tone wasn't angry, it was disappointed, and that hits way harder than yelling. Suddenly, Whoopi, longtime queen of midday commentary, didn't look untouchable. She didn't even look bold. She looked human, like someone who'd gone unchecked for too long, and it didn't take a co-host or a face rival to do it, just one guy in a hoodie with a pie chart who crashed a shouting match from his own podcast universe. That's the twist. The second a glossy, high-budget segment gets dismantled by a YouTuber in casual wear, the Matrix glitches, and you realize the Emperor's outfit wasn't royal. It came from a BuzzFeed personality quiz. And what made it iconic? Whoopi wasn't even there. No split screen, no camera reaction, just Charlie, dropping truth from another orbit, and still, the impact hit. No gloves, no ring, just quiet, surgical facts. And the next day, her studio chair squeaked a little louder, not because she was shaken, but because the illusion cracked. She didn't get destroyed in a debate. She got eclipsed by a monologue she never saw coming. In an age where Google searches expose more than zingers ever could, and that's the real twist. Whoopi didn't need to approve it, because the internet didn't wait for permission. That's how echo chambers fall apart. When you've heard your voice bounce back for so long, you forget the outside world is doing their own homework.
Think if a liberal came to speak at University of Kentucky, they'd give an open mic like I just did to a conservative and had a discussion like this.
I certainly hope they would.
No, they wouldn't. Because speech is not a left-wing value. That is why they have to deploy shock troops called Antifa to go after everywhere I go. When I go to University of California, Davis next week, there has to be 120 police officers because of the threats, the violent threats of liberals that want me dead, that want to disrupt our event.
Suddenly, The View wasn't just a show. It became a case study. Viewers weren't just clapping anymore. They were analyzing, replaying, and breaking it down like digital detectives. And when the truth landed, there was no drama or fireworks, just a quiet roast powered by Wi-Fi, memes, and one too many contradictions. That's the real power of a calm takedown. No stage, no mic drop. Just one clean fact dropped into the timeline like a pebble, causing the whole applause machine to wobble. No yelling, no viral meltdown, just the weight of truth crashing down on a tower built from recycled talking points. Now, the big question isn't if she'll recover. Of course she will. It's TV, where everyone gets retakes, reshoots, and rebrands. The game resets daily. But the real question is, will the audience ever unsee it? Can they clap the same way, still nod along like nothing ever cracked? Because once you peek behind the curtain, it's hard to pretend the wizard's still magical. Once the trick's exposed, it's just wires and smoke. So next time Whoopi drops one of those dramatic, eyebrow-raising speeches like, it's gospel from the mountaintop, just remember somewhere out there, a camera's rolling, a podcast is uploading, and someone's calmly running the numbers.